So I've actually recorded so we don't go over. I'm just going to broadcast that one. Okay, we are live. All right. I think we're ready to go. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam, and I'm the CEO here at roomvu. Today, we have our two amazing guests coming back talking about the most important thing that's happening in real estate right now across US and possibly Canada. So today, we're going to be talking about a lot of important things, and we are so excited to have Sabine and Ginger back again for the fourth series of what turns out to be the most important topic in real estate today. So Sabine, take the floor. Thank you for joining. And I would love for our audience to get to know you guys, Havology, and all the amazing things you do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sam. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. As Sam mentioned, this is our roomvu Hivology joint number 4, Navigating Change workshop. My name is Sabine Steinbrecher, and I'm the founder and CEO of Hivology Accelerated Learning. We've been training real estate agents for over 25 years and have delivered over about 1 million courses. So we've learned a few things in that time. And we've developed a learning community that's 100% designed to accelerate your business. So today, we really wanted to talk about everything that is designed to help you get through this transition from the NAR settlement. I'll talk in a second about what we're going to focus on today. But I wanted to also just thank you very much for being here and let you know we've got some pretty great goodies for you today. What I would recommend, because one of them we're going to be actually using today, we'll be referencing it. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't already downloaded it, all you got to do is go to gohive.info/roomvu. That's gohive.info/roomvu. I believe the link is in the YouTube chat. It should also be in the description. If you go there now, we'd love you to download at least the Know Your Buyer worksheet template, because we're going to be talking about that today. There's also a complete guide to seller concessions there, which is a really, really strong guide that you guys could use, but we're going to be working more with the other one today. So maybe go and grab that. There's also a ton more goodies at that roomvu link that you guys I think will love. Lots of free good stuff. So please jump into there. And before I go into Sam goes into talking a little bit more about roomvu, I also wanted to introduce Ginger to you. Ginger is backed by popular demand. She's an active broker.
Super popular demand. I think everyone loved Ginger so much because she just has a ton of knowledge about really making sure that we have a great system to work with buyers and work concessions, agreements, and things like that. So thank you for joining us again, Ginger.
Oh, happy to be here.
Yeah, and everybody should know that Ginger's still an active broker and agent and a very experienced and popular instructor. So, you know, she's going to put all of that together today to help underscore everything that we are going to be doing. But also note, there's a load of previous sessions that we've done. So this is number 4. So you've got 3 other deep topics that you should think about. Ginger's helped us, I think, on all but one. So you're going to get lots of wonderful information there about all what you need to learn about navigating change. And just go to the description in the YouTube channel, and Sam and his team have posted the links to the previous sessions, so you can go directly back there. So Sam,
all right,
please take it away and talk about roomvu.
All right, perfect. Okay, so guys, we're going to watch a 1-minute video, exactly 1 minute. The goal of this video is to get you to opt in for a social media audit. You're going to see a QR code. Just take your phone out and book yourself a social media audit so we can actually help you move the needle on social media, help you explain what roomvu is and how we can actually help you portray yourself as an active agent. So when you talk buyer agency and concessions with the sellers, they wouldn't be like, who is this guy? He doesn't know what he's doing. You know what you're doing, and you're always on top of mind with social media. So let's watch 1-minute video, and we're going to go from there.
Are you a real estate agent that knows you need to do more with your social media? Are you the type of person that wishes that you had more time and energy throughout the day so you could focus on marketing? Listen, we all know that marketing is a competition for people's attention, And here's the good news. When you partner with roomvu, you're going to be able to capitalize on the big six of social media and catapult your business to the next level, because we're going to help you generate more buyer and seller opportunities, not only from people within your network, but also introduce you to people that don't even know who you are yet. Make sure that you stick around till the end of this webinar so you can learn how easy it is to partner with roomvu while capitalizing on a one-day price accommodation exclusively for you for attending today's event. And we're also going to show you how easy it is to register for a social media audit so you can see how your social media compares to other people and professionals in the industry.
All right, so let's get started. We are ready to get rolling. Guys, please put your comments in the chat. We already have received so many comments and questions. Something that we're not going to talk about today, and we just discussed it earlier, is forms, because every state has its own regulations and every state has its own requirements. We are trying to be giving as much relative advice, but again, I think we've said this before and we'll say it again, every broker is different. Every state is different. So consult with your own magic broker, consult with your own team before applying all of these techniques. So with that, Sabine, take it away. Let's get going.
Perfect. Thank you, Madir. Remember, everybody, to what Sam just said, things are still changing. So we're going to go through exactly where we know things are today. But please remember, this is not legal advice. Check with your broker, your legal, your state, etc., for your local regulations. Before we jump in with Ginger, we would love you all to just take 2 seconds and tell us in the chat, please, if you were on any of the previous sessions. We'd really love to know how many people are coming back for these. We're trying to provide you with topics that we know you really want. And please do us a favor. There's 2 things we really want to ask of you. One is either at the end of this thing, or if you have to leave early, drop a note in and let us know how you think we did. Anything would be valuable. And also tell us if there's anything specific that you want us to cover on the next one. Right now, we're looking at probably talking about seller concessions and comp on the next one, just to give you a heads up. And then the one in September, we're still back and forth on exactly what we want to do. So that would be helpful if you guys don't mind. So Ginger, my dear, thank you again for being with us. To get the ball rolling, we're going to go soup to nuts today on buyer rep, the process from the very first meeting or preparing for the first meeting, client intake, and getting your buyer rep agreement signed. So we're going to start with step 1, which is the sort of the client intake mastery piece, discovering effective techniques, for that process, but also how to set a professional tone and build trust from the very first interaction. So Ginger, why don't we start with, if it's all right with you, sort of at what point should we all be doing client intake? How do you like people to be doing that part? And what questions are key in this part of the process, maybe to even warm them up or to sort of get to know where your potential buyer client might be?
I think for the most part, agents are jumping right to pulling out the buyer's rep agreement without even building any kind of trust, any kind of rapport with anybody. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about professionalism and how you look with your conversations. But to me, before you even meet with this client, you should be on the phone, FaceTiming, whatever you're doing, emails, and you should have some questions ready for them to get to know you and you to get to know them. One of the first questions should be, what do you know about the current market condition? Do you know if your area is a seller's market or a buyer's market? We have been in such a seller's market for so long. Everybody still thinks we're there. The inventory is growing. The days on market is getting larger in a lot of areas of the country. They may not know that. Nobody may have sent them the memo. So you need to know, number one, where is your market so you can explain that to them. Because many people may actually come up and say, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to buy a home because there's no inventory. But the market quarterly reports are showing just the opposite in a lot of areas. You've got to know your area. And then, of course, you should ask them, do you know what the price point that you're looking at in your desired area? Do you know what that is? Everybody has an area they want to live in, but not everybody knows the desired price point. So we're trying to establish, do they even know what it costs? the next thing, and I know this is kind of a bummer, but have you heard about the NAR lawsuit and how it's affecting real estate? A lot of people have not heard about it, but a lot of people are right on target. Do y'all agree? So you kind of want to know, what do they know and what do they not know about this? The next question I'd ask, and this is way before we do our intake form, is do you know what a buyer's agent does for a buyer? Do you understand what we do for you as a buyer? Most of them do not know. It is our job to explain that to them. Then the very next thing is, do you know how a buyer's agent is compensated? I promise you more than half of them do not know. So now that you've done this, then
I love that. Can I interject here? I want to just reiterate on 3 of the things that you said. They were like super spot on. Like, I think a lot of times we look at national stats and we're like, well, inventory is not there. There is no inventory, like, and people are reading headlines. So I think in the importance of going hyper local in your market and telling them what's exactly happening in your market is going to be super important. And I think the other thing that you said is, have you heard about the NAR settlement? There's a ton of negative media publications out there that actually say, well, we're going to pay realtors less commission. That now this is changing. I think our job as a realtor is to actually tell people the right narrative rather than just the media narrative, because the media has this huge negative narrative, at least for clickbaits. So there's a ton of headlines that are out there that are saying, well, the commissions are going away, this and that. But I think among your points, these 2 resonated with me the most. They're super important. And yeah, sorry to interject here.
Yeah, I mean, Ginger and I talked about this a lot about, what we thought everybody's process is a little bit different, but getting through these questions ahead of time before you even do the intake process is going to do a lot of things for an agent. It's going to set the tone for your level of professionalism. It's going to help you set up the client intake meeting, and it's going to help you, frankly, see where you might, if you don't have the answers to these things, you could go sideways in your transaction pretty quickly if you don't know where they're at with all of these. And by the way, everybody, these questions are in the document that I asked you to download or suggested that you download, the Know Your Buyer worksheet. So please, if you haven't, go grab it. You'll see that all these questions are listed there, so you don't need to scratch. And actually, Ginger, one of the other things we talked about was, I know you said that they should be doing this ahead of the meeting, but we sort of saw this as a way for them to help them get the appointment in the first place as well. So
Yes.
maybe, can you talk to that a tiny bit?
Well, here's what I'm going to say to all of you. So many of you have prepared like crazy for a listing appointment. You worked yourself like a dog for a listing appointment. But I think when it came to the buyer appointment, because that compensation was baked into the MLS, a lot of agents didn't go the extra mile for the buyer agent appointment like they did for the seller agent appointment. You are now on a whole different track if you want to survive in this business. You better prepare for that buyer's rep appointment just like you would for a listing, which means you're going to show up with professional information. You are going to research your client just like you would research a seller. I'm going to get on Sam's favorite methods, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm looking at everything because it's going to give me some idea of what client I'm about to work with. And maybe I don't want to work with that client. So keep in mind, we have a choice. Do we want to work with these clients or don't they? But if I'm checking them out, you better bet they're checking you out. So some of these things we need to worry about when I say have professionalism in there. Number 1, have a current headshot, not low resolution. Make sure your bio is up to date, not out of date. Make sure all your branding, and I think Sam played that video and he is the guy for you, so that you look professional. If you don't have an online presence in this day and time, you're toast. Heads up on that, you're toast. And
I think you're right on. Even with sellers, I think there was an NAR study last year, and it asked, what do you look for in a realtor that's going to sell your home? 67% of sellers said, I want the realtor to market my home beyond the MLS. Do you know what that means? Social media, right? You know what that means? some kind of advertising and targeted advertising to lure buyers in. So I think the reality is everyone can even go right now and put their home on Zillow and sell it, and they don't have to pay buyer commission supposedly. So I think our job as a realtor is to always remind our sphere of influence that we are in business, we know what we're doing, and always educate them. So I think to your point, that's a great point for that. Some people from the audience are asking you to repeat the first 5 tips that you said. I think one of them was be hyper local with your market stats and know what's happening in there. The second one was knowing the narrative and controlling the narrative and saying what happened with the settlement. What were the other 3?
Do they understand what a buyer's agent actually does for a buyer? Do they understand how a buyer's agent is compensated? So a lot of these things they do not know, but if you don't go hyper local, you cannot get your presentation ready for them, I promise you. The next thing I want to say, and I'll let Sam chime in on this, being vulgar on social media is not going to make you look professional. So one of the articles I read on Inman, and I think all of y'all take Inman, being on TikTok, you looking silly and tacky and out of touch might make somebody think you don't have a professional image. So professional image, you got to remember, they're looking at everything, your personal and your business. And if you don't seem professional on that, they're going to walk away from you as a buyer's agent or a seller's agent. So keep in mind, what you might think is funny may not look too professional to everybody else. Do y'all agree?
Yeah, I have a personal story on that one. I used to DJ for like weekends, and I was also a realtor. So I remember being on the stage, it was like partying and just like entertaining the crowd. And my client comes to their friend and they're like, you know that guy up there? He's my realtor. And they're like, that guy? And I lost that sale. So bottom line is, I think your reputation in other businesses or what you do can impact what you do as a realtor. And you're absolutely right. Like just posting content for the sake of engagement might backfire. So it's a fine line to get engagement and also be on top of mind, but also posting professional content that looks and feels as it was done for real estate and has that elegance to it.
And here's what I'm going to say to you. We are really consultants. Would you ever see an attorney post those things? Would you ever see your CPA post those things? Think of yourself as a business professional. Would they be posting memes with martinis in the air and bikinis on the boat? Probably not. So think of yourself as marketing just like any other professional would. How many of you have seen your attorney like that? Probably not. Okay.
How many of you want to see your attorney like that?
Probably not.
So, not me, not mine anyway. Let me put it that way.
From the minute you speak with them on the phone to the minute they get a good look at you, they have already searched you from everywhere they can possibly search you. Yeah. Now, I have a lot of agents say, well, I keep my professional profile very clean. Who cares? They're going to look at your private profile. Yeah. So heads up, if you think you can keep one professional profile and then do whatever you want on your private, that's not going to work. Okay?
Actually, our advice is to combine it, since the personal profile has the most people that follow you and engage with you. So the idea is that to always make sure that there is a consolidated account, so they can just follow one, they get content from your daily life because you're a person behind that brand, and also get professional content for that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We've got, if anybody wants it, we've got a profile builder checklist, I think we called it, that we could throw up. If you guys are interested, can you throw something in the chat so I know whether or not you guys want us to get that up on the resource page for you? And that'll help you with just, it's like a checklist to go through all the things that you need to do to make sure that your profile is where it needs to be, basically. So if you're interested, please drop it in there and I will make sure that we add it.
We're getting a lot of yeses, and we're going to upload yeses? Also. Yeah, we're getting yeses, and we're also going to put the link on, like, one link from us as well. But the goal is, guys, just start doing that today. I love the engagement. Doug, Yolanda, And Leah, thank you for just like pumping the chat. Love that. So moving on to, go ahead, Ginger. Like I think you were saying a lot of.
So remember, the things you say on the phone with them also matter. The language you're using matters. Don't say, I'm going to make a deal with you. Does that sound professional to you? I'm going to make a deal with you. You should say things, I'm going to work your transaction. You make sure you're careful the terms you're using. Don't say this is free. It's complimentary. Do y'all see the difference? And I have a whole sheet of these I can get with Sabine and we'll put something together. Just simple things you say can make people think you're not professional. Does that make sense to you guys? So
It does. It does. Thanks, Ginger. That's brilliant.
That you really have to be mindful of how you speak from that very first contact, because they're actually judging you. You know they are, right? How long do you have to make a first impression? About 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And that means on the phone, on FaceTime, in person. So make sure you're treating your business as a business and not a hobby. So I think that makes a difference too. They're looking, like Sam said, he was a DJ. They might have thought that was real estate was just a hobby for him. Correct, Sam?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
vice versa, you know.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that was on the weekends. It was entirely different.
They don't care. They think you
yeah,
should be a real estate agent until you die, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, remember the look, like that guy is your realtor.
Yeah. So
Like,
think about that.
Yeah.
So Ginger, let me ask you then. So all of this to say that we're sort of getting to the point where you're preparing for the buyer presentation. So, you know, we won't spend a whole lot of time right now on actually getting the appointment. We can do that on another session, I think, unless you have some tips, but we really wanted to get into what the agent should be doing to prepare fully for the buyer presentation. So we wanted to talk a little bit about client intake and a number of other things. And so please, if you don't mind, maybe walk us through the prep process.
Okay. I think you're going to put that form up, aren't
Yeah,
you?
while you're talking, I'm going to pull up the intake form that is in their stuff.
Okay. She's going to pull this form up for you. I like to send this out before I ever meet with the client. After I've talked about all those questions, I say to them, there's going to be a form I'm going to send you. It's kind of a get to know you form. But what I'm looking for is, where are they looking to purchase? What are they looking to purchase? What is their time frame? Have they bought a home previously? So this intake form is going to help me craft my presentation when I meet with them, because you cannot have the same buyer rep presentation for every client. You should have one for a new home buyer, one for a move-up buyer, one for a luxury buyer, one for someone that's retiring and right-sizing. It is not a one-size-fits-all presentation. And I think that's where so many agents make a mistake. They have one format and they pull it out in front of everybody and they expect it to work for everybody. It does not resonate with that buyer if it is not tailored to that buyer. Does that make sense to everybody? It's got to be tailored to what I'm looking for. Okay.
Exactly.
And
we'll tell you that this form. Oh, I'm sorry, Ginger.
Go ahead and show them.
So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, brilliant. So here's what you guys have in your resources. So I'm going to just show you two things. It's called your Know Your Buyer worksheet template. What you can do is pop in here, and where it says grab a copy, click on that. It's a Canva template. So because it's a Canva template, obviously you can do two things. You can brand it, you can edit it, save it, and make it available for your own purposes. And by the way, these are the icebreakers that we talked about a few minutes ago. So they're in this document as well. So this is what we've got for you. This is basically what it looks like. And to my point earlier, you can just edit this if you want to, because right now it's designed for sort of a typical residential buyer, but you might decide that you want to tweak it for luxury questions, you know, to Ginger's point or whatever, and create a couple versions of this. This is yours to play with. Feel free to do whatever you want. You can make a copy of it and or as many copies of it as you want. It's also set up that at the bottom of it, you can brand it. So make sure that obviously you do that. But this is what you've got handy. So you've got all the buyer information that is sort of your basic stuff. And I don't, Ginger, how deep did you want it to go into sort of describing what's in here? Should we just let them do that, or?
Well, once you get these questions answered, then you get this back and now you start formulating your buyer rep appointment presentation. You know, are they a first-time buyer? That's going to look totally different than a buyer that's bought 6 homes. Because if you're a first-time buyer, I'm going to walk you through every single step of the process.
Yeah.
If you have bought 6 homes, that's going to bore them to I don't know where, right? So you've got to be careful. Now, if they are from out of state, let me back up the train. If they're from out of state, you might have to walk that 6-time buyer through the process, because what happens in New York doesn't happen in Texas. Do y'all agree? So we should add that to the form. Where did you buy these previous homes? Because a lot of people are moving all around this country, and not everybody conducts real estate the same in every state. So you got to know that. So if I am a person that is going to be right sizing, do not use the word downsizing. Nobody likes that term. I'm going to ask them, okay, what do you plan to do with your current home? Hopefully you'll get a double. You'll get a listing and a buy, right? And then, of course, you have to be very sensitive to why are they doing this? Are they moving because they have to? Are they moving because they want to? So you got to be, you know, are they active people that are still actively playing golf and tennis and everything else? Or are they the people that are going to need a community that really just is what? We're here to retire. So you would do what? If I was doing my buyer's rep appointment and I had an active person that was retiring, I would be showing them, hey, here's a 55+ community. Here's this, here's that. That would be in my buyer's rep appointment. So you're tailoring that appointment to the client. And when you get done with that worksheet, you should have a pretty good idea of where they want to live in your city so that you can have some things ready for that appointment. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. It does. Something about the form, it looks like some of the people are not able to download the template from the link, Sabina. So we can email them this link right after. So we have the attendee list. We would be emailing you guys. Don't worry. If the template is not working for whatever reason, we would just put a direct link in there so you can download it. And you can kind of go from there.
Yeah, and my team's on this call too, so they can have a look at it while we're talking as well to see what's going on.
All right, awesome. So let's move forward. So you were saying, Ginger, like about all these things that we need to do up on this point. So what is next?
Well, make sure you're getting your value proposition across to them. A lot of people don't understand what is the value of a buyer's agent. Number one, you should tell them, I am in your corner. I am not representing the seller. I'm representing you in your best interest. And then you go walk through what makes you unique. Something has to make you unique. One thing I think moving forward in this industry, and I think we spoke about this on the other podcast, was you can't be the person that's only looking on MLS for a buyer. You have to be looking at REOs, Zillow, Trulia, Orchard, you name it. You're looking at everything, FSBOs, because you're going to be the agent that's going to go the extra mile to find them the home that works for them. Because I feel, and this is just me, if you're just the person that's just going to zip up and down MLS, they can do that themselves. They can get on realtor.com, and that doesn't give you a lot of value.
I love that point. So essentially now that you're getting compensated, you can look at FSBOs. You can look at everything. You can look at expireds. You can look at everything. So you can actually go above and beyond like a commercial agent in residential. I think that's the thing. Like commercial agents have done this for years, and I think that's how we should have opened this call. Ginger has been doing this in the commercial sector for so many years, and that's why she has so many tips and tricks as to how to actually navigate this change together.
And I think I said this previously. How I've made the bulk of my income is finding things that were not listed for people. That brings value. It brings value. Of course, you must know the contracts. You have to understand your contracts and your buyer rep agreement and be able to explain it. You should show up to your buyer rep agreement with a contract from your state completely filled out. Don't use their names, use John and Joe Smith or whatever, and make sure you have it filled out so you can show them in this paragraph, I will be representing you in this manner. So they understand you're going to help them get the survey ordered. You're going to help them do the title commitment or whatever you guys call it in your own states. They need to know when they look at that contract, they're going to get a little more what? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I do need you because I don't quite understand what all of this means. So be able to explain the contract during your buyer's rep appointment and also bring your buyer's rep agreement. Now, keep in mind, every state's going to have their own agreement. And I'm a broker, but I'm not your broker. So I don't know what your broker is going to tell you. So from what I'm understanding, there are short forms, which are 1 page. There are long forms, which are 5 pages. There are people doing showing services. Everybody's doing something different in every state. You will have to get with your broker in your state to figure that out. Okay.
Makes sense. From Moman and from Crystal, we're getting questions about how do I actually find homes that are not listed on the MLS? Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I know we talked about FSBOs. I know we talked about Zillow, homes that are not listed on the MLS, but are listed on Zillow by the seller. I've probably like looked at Craigslist in the past as well. That sounds insane to look for a home on Craigslist, but trust me, sellers do that. I've looked for homes on Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people do that as well. They just post a home for sale. I've done things like when a home is listed for rent for a while, I've talked to the owner for sale, and they're like, I'm like, well, I know you've posted this for rent. Would you be interested at selling this? And I think creating databases and looking on the market daily in your own core area of where your activity is going to open up a lot of doors. And you got to find homes that are typically not listed. Yeah, but what else? What else would you add to that,
So
Ginger?
Sam, to your point, I think everybody that's an NAR agent has access to RPR. Everybody should have access to RPR. If you do not have access, you need to go get it because it's free. You can go into RPR and I can look for rentals, to Sam's point. And what I would want to look for, Sam, is have they owned them 5 years, 10 years, 15, or 20? So if they've owned those rentals probably 15, 20 to 30 years, they're probably ready to exit being a landlord. So that would be a good time to write them a letter, because remember, you can't call unless you check the do not call list. So you could write them a letter and say, are you entertaining, selling your home, your rental? Make sure you don't go after a landlord that just bought the home, because they probably put money into the home with remodeling, and that's just not going to be the time they're going to flip it. So look at the time
math wouldn't make
they
sense for them,
owned
right?
things. That's one thing I always do, and it's very easy to do with RPR. So there's ways you can set up searches and do that. But also, I just got a letter the other day. I get tons of letters from people wanting to buy things I own. You can actually say, and don't just say, I just want to know if you want to sell your house. They get those letters every day. What you need to say is, I have a client that is looking in your neighborhood. Say something about the neighborhood. I noticed you have this amenity or that amenity. My client's looking in your neighborhood. Would you be interested, or would you entertain selling your home? Once again, how long have they lived there? You're wasting your time sending that mass marketing to a person that just bought that home. Everybody following me? So just blanketing the neighborhood is not going to be what you need to do. You need to look at the time of ownership in that neighborhood as well. Okay.
I love that. I love that. And Moman is also asking if how do I look for buyers on Zillow? I think aside from lead generation techniques or running your own ads through us to generate buyer leads, I don't think there's another way, right?
Not that I'm aware of, but I do want y'all to know that all of these institutional buyers are now saying they are going to do buyer end and seller end. If y'all have not been paying attention, Orchard is now saying, we can help you on the buy side. We can help you on the sell side. All of you should know your competitors and what exactly they're offering, because they're going to be the next person at that kitchen chair with your potential buyer. So you better know, what are they doing and how are you going to explain that your services are going to beat theirs hands down? Okay.
Yeah. I think there's an old saying in real estate that you cannot create real estate clients, you can steal them. So you can't really convince me to buy or sell, but you can convince me to work with you instead of Sabine or instead of Ginger. So I think that's the main point from there.
Yeah,
how
and
they're looking at that.
I think what I'm hearing from you guys too, which is always really interesting, is how critical it is at this stage to be able to have your value prop completely nailed. Because if you're going into this meeting, you've done all this prep and you're not able to communicate that well, either in the presentation itself or directly, that's a huge problem too. So if you haven't already figured that out, everybody really make sure you've got your value prop nailed. You've got different ones for different markets, like Ginger said, and make sure that you feel comfortable being able to communicate it and practice it. If you guys don't know how to do that, go to our workshops. You'll see there's a free session on getting started on that. But Ginger, I wanted to ask you another thing about how you do your presentation. So unless you guys want to talk a little bit further on prep, if you're cool with that, let's move on to, because it's already 3:36 at my time. So let's move on to actually effective buyer presentation. So like how to do really effective ones that obviously communicate that value and get the commitment that you're looking for. So we know prep is done. What do we do next? And remember, this is also not just commitment, but it's also compensation. So
Exactly.
Ginger,
So
what do you
That's
think?
going to be gold. Yeah, I think we should cover that.
yes, remember, we've already asked them, do they know how we get paid? Remember, we
Right.
asked them that question. But then the next thing, you should show up with some visuals, whether it's a PowerPoint, was it high note? What
Yeah, Ginger, I'll talk to High Note when you're done. Sorry to interrupt. I'll give them a little bit of an update.
whatever you need, some kind of visual, charts and graphs, show up with an actual buyer's guide. Have a guide that's branded to you that you can give and leave with them. A lot of people have what they call a buyer's book when they show up to a buyer presentation. Do not leave that book with someone that has not signed that agreement with you. Because I promise you, if you do, they're going to hand it to the next agent that walks in. So make sure, unless they've signed with you, you don't leave all of your marketing materials behind, okay? So that buyer's book should have everything in there. What does a contract look like? What does the buyer's rep look like? What can happen? Be prepared that you're going to write more than one offer probably today. And even if you did only write one, there's going to be a counter offer. You need to set expectations for people. If their price point is too low during that buyer's rep, you need to have a thing up on your iPad that shows the neighborhood you have told me in the intake form that you want to live in is much higher than your price point. Are you aware of that? And then maybe have neighborhoods surrounding it that are in their price point loaded up on your iPad. Can you say, could you live in this neighborhood? You don't want to just show up and say, well, you're not going to be able to afford that. You should have what? Some alternatives. Where are we moving them if that's not going to be their neighborhood? Once again, back to professionalism. Show up dressed as a professional. Keep your phone off. This is their time. You do not sit there and take calls and check your email when you're in this appointment. Be mindful of their time. Keep in mind, most people want you gone in about 30 minutes. How many of you think 30 minutes of any salesperson is plenty? Raise your hand. Of course you do, right? So you've got to limit your time, which means you should have an agenda that you have spelled out for yourself that keeps you on track. And doing those PowerPoints or high notes keeps you on track. Because sometimes
I think something, just to your point, I've seen that, like even with my appointments, if I run more than an hour in that home, the more I stay for every minute, my percentage of closing that deal goes down. Because then we got to talk about other things that might not necessarily benefit my business or my rapport, because I've already done the pitch, I've already done the thing, and after that it's just like you're either overselling, which is a bad thing, or you're just covering things that are not necessary,
or you look like you're not successful and you have all the time in the world. That's not good
that's
either.
another thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, gotta go.
And remember, if you're doing all that pre-information that we did before we ever got there, you should be able to scale down your actual appointment because you've already got that all out of the way, where other agents are now asking, where do you want to live? What price? I mean, we've already done that. So we're more prepared to do our value prop, and we're more prepared to show them the forms that they're going to be seeing and set those expectations for them. In today's world, you need to be telling buyers, you might write 5 contracts and not get one single home. You need to know we might be writing 6 contracts. You need to know that, just because you want to buy a home does not mean that's going to happen, because maybe they won't accept your terms. It's more than price. Keep in mind, it's more than price. We need to discuss that with buyers. A lot of buyers think it's all about price. It's not always about that. It could be the fact they get to stay in the home. You need to discuss that with these buyers. Would you be able to negotiate a contract that would allow the seller to stay for 60 days? Not every buyer can do that. So if you're not asking these questions, you don't even know how to formulate your first offer on the first deal. Also, keep in mind that if you don't have some kind of critical date sheet to keep them on track, you should always have a critical date sheet in your binder that says, we are partners in this. I am going to be reminding you at every deal point what needs to be done next. You need to order your survey. You need to make sure you've read the title commitment. But I am the train conductor, but we're doing this together. You're riding along with me. Don't be the pushy agent that says, we'll do it my way and it'll all work out just fine. How many of you think that's going to work out for most people? Most people want to know, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And how is it affecting me? I think a lot of agents just want to take over and just tell them, here's all I need you to do is sign right here. How many of you better have a salesperson say, I just need you to sign right here? That's not going to be an effective meeting with these people, okay? So think about it. If it was you or your child, we'll put it as a child, how would you want them to be represented? Would you want them to know every step of the transaction? Or would you want them to be with a real estate agent who said, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it? Which way would you want you or your child represented? Think of it the same way. So walking them through the process, I think, is going to be so important, because even if they have bought 6 houses, maybe the last house they bought was 30 years ago. Things have changed. So they need to understand, even though you're experienced, maybe some things have changed that were not there before. Also have some—
I think in this case, if they bought last year, things have changed.
Yeah, things have
right?
changed all the way around, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
And then, of course, you're going to have to bring up compensation. I know people don't like this ugly word, but we have to talk about how you're getting paid. Now, once again, this is a broker to broker, state by state deal, but you're going to have to get with your broker. Are you going to have an a la carte menu, which says, I'm going to do these things for you at this price? Are you going to have a percentage, which means no matter what you sell, you get a percentage of that sale? Are you going to have an hourly rate? Are you going to have a flat rate? That's all going to be between you and your broker and what they're going to allow you to do. So there are some forms out there that they're all calling them showing services, which means you may not get paid. You may be the Uber driver and you're just opening doors. So you will have to find out with your state and your brokers, number one, are they allowing that? And number two, how do you get compensated? Are you the procuring cause or not? So that's going to be a state to state thing, but you need to know these things so that when you're talking with your client, they're going to ask, what is this going to cost me? Anybody think that's coming? So we need to be able to answer them. So the one thing that we are teaching, and this may be different in every state, we are teaching buyers agents that they have to tell the actual buyer, will they be on the line for compensation or will the seller pay it? That will be house by house. So it's not going to be a blanket thing anymore. Okay.
That's going to be a tough one. Just like
It's
knowing.
really no different than what I've been doing all my life. So listen, guys, every single property I've ever showed in commercial, I had to pick up the phone, email or text and say, are you co-broking? And either the answer is yes, or the answer is no. Okay.
Yeah. So, and Ginger, my favorite thing that you always tell everybody is, how often have you not gotten paid?
I got paid every time or I'm not doing the deal. So there you go. If you're not going to get paid, you can go pluck weeds in your flower bed for free. Okay.
That's a Texas-ism, I assume.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's just wrap up 2 quick things, if you don't mind, on the presentation piece before we go a little bit deeper into that stuff. We get questions all the time about people asking about whether I'm doing something differently if it's digital or in person. Am I doing a Zoom call? are with my buyer for the first meeting or for the intake meeting, they're not, or the presentation meeting for that matter. What do you think?
Well, I think either way, you should have some sort of documents that you're sharing in your Zoom call or your Google Meet or whatever you're using. Even if it's kind of hard to do that on FaceTime, but I do know some of you guys are using FaceTime. So I would say, yes, if you're meeting digitally, maybe you're meeting on Zoom, that you put up that intake form and say, let's do this together real quick. I've got a blank one here. You just, we'll go over it and you're filling it out for them.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, there still is a big request for Zoom meetings. Not everybody wants you in their house. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but they would prefer to be able to click off of Zoom when you board them and say that they lost connection. How many of you think that's easier than asking you to leave? So keep in mind, some people prefer that digital type of appointment because they can control what? When you leave and when they leave.
Yeah.
So
That's
you have to be
interesting.
open. I've had agents say, well, I'm not meeting with them and I'm not going to represent them unless they meet me in person.
Yeah.
You might not be working a lot. So,
Well-
So what are the steps of a home buying process that I can explain to my audience when I'm talking with them? So like, can you walk us through that? Like some of the early steps that I can share with my buyers and
Well,
say,
and
well,
actually-
here is what it's going to look like. Here's the step by step. How would you
We're,
formulate it in an easier way?
Sam, we were just finishing it up. We didn't have time to get it finished for this moment, but it'll be ready probably tomorrow.
Okay.
We've built out with Ginger's help a buyer's roadmap, which is all the steps along in the process. So we'll be able to share that with everybody. But Ginger, do you want to talk a little bit
Yeah,
to
I'll give you a few of
what's
the
in there?
steps. Well, number
Yeah,
one,
would love that.
First you select your agent, obviously. And then of course we have to get you with a lender. So all of you guys should have lenders cards, and it should be 3 or 4 of them, not just one. And then you're getting them qualified because we can't make an offer without qualifications. So that's step one. Number one, we've done our buyer's rep. We've signed our buyer's rep. Now let's move on. We're getting with the lender. We're getting ourselves qualified because even though you tell me you can afford 500,000, you may not be able to, right? And I don't say it to them like that. I always say, let's see what your buying power is. Say it like that. Let's see what your buying power is. Don't say, I don't think you can afford that, right? Don't ever say that. And then there are people, y'all need to know, just because somebody can afford 500,000, that doesn't mean that's the house they're looking for. So you need to say to them, do you have a price range that you want to keep no matter what you're qualified for? People never ask this question. There are people that, there's a term in this country, are you ready? House poor. There are some people that do not want to be house poor. So they will say, no matter what I'm qualified for, this is my price range. Where agents make a mistake is they take them to what they're qualified for and don't listen. You have to listen to them. So after you get them lender approved, then it's time what? To start setting up showings. So you should already know what neighborhoods they're looking for. In that process, you should be asking them what days of the week and what times work for you to tour properties, because not everybody is going to be available during the day. It may be I tour from 5 to 7. It may be I'll try to meet you at lunch. The other thing you should ask, and a lot of agents do not ask this, how many homes a day are you comfortable seeing? I had an agent in my class yesterday says, I show them 20 homes a day. I'm like, you wouldn't be showing me 20 homes a day. That is too much, too much, too much. The other thing,
my favorite thing was like beyond the 4th home, you would just mix it all. Like
yes,
it's all like
I have a good tip for that, Sam. I always give them a sheet, for the home, and I tell them I want you to nickname this home. I want you to name it the Oak Tree Home.
I love that. That's
Green Door
awesome.
Home. Me and my husband bought an investment property and we called it the Ugly Pig. And when we called the agent back and we said, we'll take the Ugly Pig, she knew exactly what house I was talking about. Because as I do those sheets with you, the buyer, I have those sheets as well. And when you tell me what's the nickname, I'm writing it on my sheet. So, because address has just become a big blur, right? But if you take people to 20 houses, that's insane, right?
It's insane.
So on top of that, guys, look at who you're dealing with, your buyer. Do they have little kids they're dragging? Are they older? Older people are not going to be into 20 homes. I'm here to tell you. I think the good average for people is 3 to 5 homes a day, but there may be some people that have mobility issues and that's too much. So you have to, figure that out. Once we finally find your home, I'm going to talk to them about not waving their hands around in the house saying, oh my God, this is it. Stop showing me homes. This is the only home I could ever buy in my life. Because now they've just lowered their negotiating power because everybody is videoing you. And they're also audioing you, even though it's against the law in some states. So I always tell them, please don't show any emotion. Let's don't talk about this till we drive away. And then, we'll get out of that house down the road. And if they really do want to put together an offer, we'll talk about it then. So here's what I have found in my business is sometimes it's the very first house you showed them. You might show them 15, but they might come back to that very first house you showed them. So I always keep track of everything. Because I've had agents say, I can't even remember the first house I showed them. I'm like, are you kidding? Don't you have records? You should have records of everything you've showed them. Because they might ask you, hey, Sam, do you remember the ugly pig? Where was that? Right? You should be able to answer those questions. So once we find a house and we formulate an actual contract, then we're going to talk to them about if it gets accepted, what are the next steps? The next steps, of course, are putting your earnest money and your option money, depending on what your state calls it. That has to go into title. Sometimes they go to the broker. In different states. I know in Ohio, it goes straight to the broker. And then we talk about the process. We have to get a survey. We have to have inspections. You have an option period. All of that should have been explained in your buyer's rep consultation to begin with, but nobody remembers that. Do y'all agree? They don't remember that whole roadmap. So we're going to have to go over that all again with them and tell them, here's the next thing. And don't forget, I'll be reminding you it's time for you to do these items. That's why I'm here, to guide you through this process and to give you the least amount of anxiety to get this process done.
Yeah.
Now,
Ginger, can I ask you something? When you talk about that list of services, that is a little bit to do with their value prop and what type of buyer's agent that they want to be, right? Like what services that they're going to provide will inform that list to a large degree too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make that point because we're hearing from agents that want to be door openers and showers and other agents that want to be full service. And if that's the case, then obviously compensation changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now here's what I found though with agents. They want to be the full service agent on paper, on the paycheck, but they really only want to be the showing agent in reality. So here's the thing, guys, you're not going to get any referrals if you're the showing agent, but you're getting the paycheck. Does that make sense to y'all? So if you're going to expect the full boat compensation, do your job. I mean, that's how you're going to get referrals. Yeah. And in this business, the only thing that keeps you alive is referrals. You need to be client-centric, not transaction-centric. Because if you're transaction-centric, you're constantly, as Sam said, stealing people from other people. Right, Sam? But if you move to client-centric, people will be referring you. And that's where your business is going to come from. But that's only if you do a great job.
So guys, there's another thing for the audience. We do have a lot of videos around buyer and the role of a buyer agent. We've added a ton of videos for this. Go onto your profile, you would see them. I suggest sharing them away, learning from them, or just having notes to repeat them. These are like super important to tell people what the role of a buyer agent is, because it's going to be different. You gotta tell them a lot of things as to what you need to do, and really portray yourself as that buyer agent. And I know no one wants to be a buyer agent in our industry. We've had this old saying of, in order to last, you gotta list, or you gotta list to last. I don't necessarily think that's true.
I don't think it's true at all.
Yeah. So
I am not a lister. I am not a lister at all. I hate listings. So heads up, it depends on your personality. For me, I like being the buy side because I can control my hours. If you are the list side, you're not controlling anything, especially in commercial. You are going to go open those doors when somebody wants to see it. But it depends on your personality. I do think the list side thinks they have everything covered. But moving forward, your job's going to be harder than it was before. I actually had someone ask me today, Do you think the non-MLS people that get to show homes in every area should be paid differently? Well, I'm thinking that's what this whole antitrust thing was about, wasn't it? Everybody's supposed to see every home they want to. And what this agent said to me was, well, I should get paid extra for opening the doors. I'm like, you set your fee at the beginning. You knew at the beginning you might have to open doors. So I don't think you should say that to a client. If I have to open doors, I'm charging you more. Hello. So if they're unrepresented, which you are going to be having a lot of unrepresented buyers, if you're the seller side, I'm giving you the news flash, you're opening doors. Does everybody understand?
That
Yeah,
makes sense. Something
absolutely.
that you mentioned, and I'm going to transition to the next topic here, was getting referrals and getting more referrals from your existing audience, the people that have worked with you and the people that are trusting you already. I think testimonials play a huge role here. Like just getting that testimonial from your clients on your Google My Business profile is going to do magic for your business. I still have people that are reading testimonials from 2018, 2017 on my Google business profile. And now we do have a plugin that actually reads your testimonials from your Google profile, guys, and actually posts it on your social media. So make sure you give that a try. But the whole goal is to collect as much testimonials as you can. That will be the idea. Because trust me, like people want to know if you are a trustworthy person. They want to see how far back you have testimonials and you have reviews. And I think you can utilize that's evergreen content. You can always utilize it, put it on your social media, put it on your website, put it on every material that you're doing. Even if you're doing buyer representations, just put it big and bold that Susan and Joe bought a home with me. And this time, this is the testimonial. I would even screenshot the Google review because that's verified. That's there. So I think that's a huge item that we discount and we don't look at it enough times.
For sure. Sam, I'm going to jump in just quickly because we're almost at the end of our time. So I wanted to remind everybody, could you please tell us how we did today in the chat? Tell us what other topics you want. We're going to go deep. Like I said, we really want to go deep on compensation and seller concessions in the next session. You can get started if you want. One of the resources in that download is a seller concession guide if you want to get started and get ahead of the sort of the curve on that. But I will also tell you, we have had conversations about compensation fairly deeply already in some of the previous sessions. So if you don't want to wait till the next one, but we're going to tie everything together and go really deep just in that area for you guys on the next
Something that we keep hearing from our audience is a checklist. They want a checklist to
Which checklist?
Would love a checklist about what to include in my buyer presentation. Would love a checklist about what to include in into my seller representation. I think just a simple checklist would go a long way. So people can always just be like, oh, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, because we tend to forget things, right?
So I'll also give you guys a little tip that I really recommend. So there's a guy by the name of Mark Choi, and he is the CEO at Highnote. So go to highnote.io. They've developed one of the coolest listing presentation and buyer presentation models that I've seen. If you guys are interested at all, go check it out. I have a code for you if you want to get 20% off, but also he's doing a session on August 8th. Mark himself was the #2 condo listing agent in San Francisco for years and built an entire company around this model. And his model of the way he does both buyer and listing presentations, he'll talk about in that session. So everybody's
we're gonna put a lot of content for you guys as well, and make sure that we are covering that. So guys, we're close to the end of this session. Please make sure you check out hivology.com/roomvu. There's going to be a ton of content for you.
No, it's hivology.com is just our site, and gohive.com/roomvu.
Okay.
That's okay. I just want to make sure they get there.
Okay. And
Sam, let me say one thing before I lose my train of thought. You can tell me.
Perfect. Yes.
So one thing I want to say to you buyer agents, when it comes to compensation, you must talk to them, and you're going to get this in the next session from Sabine, about how that can be taken care of through concessions, seller concessions. It is going to be so important as a buyer's rep, you understand there are ways to get that covered through seller concessions and how you can do it. So it's so imperative that you show up to that, because that's going to be a key point when you make your buyer's rep presentation, that you say there are more than one way to cover what you're going to owe me. You know, it could be the seller paying the whole thing. It could be raising the price of the home. There's a million different things it can be. It's not a million. Let's don't get too crazy. there's a few things we can do.
Yeah.
So just you talking about that in your buyer's rep, does it make you sound more experienced and like a better negotiator? They want to know you're going to go to bat for them and going to try to make sure that you get paid from the seller in some form, whether it's a concession, whether it's raising the price of the house. Of course, that's got to praise. Let's not get too crazy there. But I'm just saying, you knowing how to discuss this with them is going to make a difference. Okay.
Thanks, Ginger. That was amazing. So if everybody's cool, that is the topic we're going to dive into next time. If you have any other suggestions,
that'll be awesome.
throw it in the chat.
There's going to be so many questions around this, and we're already getting so many thank yous from our audience. Guys, we've put the gohive.info/roomvu link a couple of times already for you guys. So make sure you click on that. Make sure you go to it. This video is broadcasted within the same link, so you can utilize the same link. And remember, we want to make sure that you're getting value out of these sessions. The more you tell us what to do for you, the more we can tailor these sessions for you. And we are not trying to ride the wave. We are not trying to say, well, the changes are coming, come to our sessions. We're actually trying to help you move the needle on the changes that are coming. And I think that's the biggest thing. So be sure to book, and we've already put in the link to audit your social media. So be sure to book an audit with us, and the winner gets a $300 gift card based on attendance. Like, so if you book today and you attend within the next week, we would do that draw and we would announce the winner. The goal is to help you move the needle on your social media and do better on social, because let's face it, we all need help. We all need to know how we are stacking against other realtors, and we all need to do a better job at reminding people that we're still in business, we're not going away, and that's that. All right, thank you so much for joining this call, guys. Thank you so much, Ginger, for coming back. Thank you, Sabine, as always, because you are the person that's helping us a lot with education. And be sure to claim your $25 credit from Hivology. That would be big. And that's that. Thank you so much, guys.